The shields were failing. Ji-won could see the numbers dropping on her screen, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. She was an ambassador, not a soldier, but right now that didn't matter. Everyone on the Vulcan flagship Eternal Hope was about to die. Shield strength at 15%, someone shouted across the bridge. Ji-won didn't know who. Maybe it was Kalen, the weapons officer. Maybe it was someone else. The smoke was too thick to see clearly. Outside the viewport, space was full of fire and death. Vulcan ships exploded one after another, bright flashes against the dark. The Scourge ships kept coming, their twisted black hulls covered in those terrible organic growths that pulsed with sick green light. They weren't ships, not really. They were alive, hungry, and they were winning. Ji-won gripped the edge of her console. Her 6 fingers trembled. She was Vulcan, one of the insectoid people from the eastern colonies. Her kind had translucent wings that caught the light, but right now those wings were folded tight against her back in fear. "We need to evacuate," Captain Torvish said. His reptilian face was calm, but Ji-won could see the defeat in his yellow eyes. "Get to the escape pods. All of you." "There's nowhere to run?" the one said quietly. She looked at the tactical display. Red enemy markers surrounded them completely. Threshold Prime, the colony world they were trying to protect, was already half covered in Scourge corruption. 3 million Vulcans lived down there. Now they were being consumed, turned into food for the hive mind. The ship shook. Another hit. Sparks flew from a control panel and someone screamed. 10% shields, Kalen reported. His voice was steady, but his hands shook as he tried to return fire. It didn't matter. The Scourge ships absorbed the energy weapons and kept coming. Ji-won made a decision. She activated the long-range communications array, using what little power remained. If they were going to die, she would send one last message into the darkness. Maybe someone would hear it. Maybe someone would remember that the Vulcan people fought to the end. "This is Ambassador Ji-won of the Vulcan Empire," she said into the transmitter. "We are making our final stand at Threshold Prime. The Scourge has broken through our defenses. We have no reinforcements. No hope of victory. To anyone who hears this message, remember us. Remember that we stood against the darkness." She paused. Her fingers moved across the console, encoding the message with ancient protocols. Protocols that were 600 years old. Protocols used to contact a people who no longer existed. "To the ghosts of Terra," she continued, her voice softer now. "We know you are gone. We know your world burned and your people scattered into legend. But our grandmothers told us stories of humans who fought beside us long ago. Warriors who never surrendered. Protectors who gave everything to defend others. If any spark of humanity still exists in this universe, we honor your memory. We try to be brave like you were brave. We try to stand like you stood." Tears ran down her face. It was foolish to send this message. Humans were extinct. Earth's sun had gone nova 6 centuries ago. Every child learned this in school. The Terrans were myths now, stories told to give courage to the young. The ship shook again, harder this time. The lights flickered and went out. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. 5% shields, Kalen said. "Scourge boarding pods incoming. Impact in 30 seconds. Captain Torvish stood from his chair. He drew his ceremonial blade, ancient and curved. "It has been an honor serving with you all," he said. Ji-won watched the boarding pods on her screen. 7 of them, locked onto different parts of the ship. In seconds, Scourge soldiers would cut through the hull. They would flood the corridors with their twisted, infected bodies. They would tear through the crew. And then they would drag the survivors to their feeding chambers. She had seen the recordings from other ships. She knew what was coming. 15 seconds, Kalen said. Ji-won closed her eyes. She thought of her home colony, the crystal towers that caught the triple sunset. She thought of her sister, safe in the core worlds. She thought of the old stories, the legends of humans with their strange, smooth skin and their unwavering determination. 10 seconds. If only the stories were true. If only humanity could return one more time, like in the ancient Thales. But that was a child's dream. Reality was the red emergency lights and the approaching death. 5 seconds. Something changed. Ji-won felt it before she saw it. A shift in the air, a change in the ship's vibrations. She opened her eyes. The tactical display was going crazy. New contacts appearing at the edge of the system? Big ones. 12 massive energy signatures, unlike anything in the Velkin database. "Captain!" Kalen shouted. "Unknown vessels entering the system. They're moving fast. Really fast. I've never seen ships accelerate like that." Ji-won stared at her screen. The new ships were dark, sleek, predatory. They cut through space like knives, leaving trails of quantum distortion. And on each hull, painted in white, was a symbol that made her heart stop, a blue sphere. Green continents. White clouds dot Earth. "It can't be," she whispered. The lead ship was enormous, bigger than the Velkin flagship. It powered directly into the Scourge formation, and suddenly space was full of weapons fire. But not energy weapons like the Velkins used. These were different. Solid projectiles moving at impossible speeds. Gravitational distortions that crushed Scourge ships like paper. Missiles that seemed to think, dodging and weaving to hit their targets. 3. Scourge ships exploded in the first 5 seconds. The boarding pods that were about to hit the Eternal Hope suddenly changed course. They were being pulled away by some invisible force. Ji-won watched in amazement as they accelerated backward, drawn into the path of one of the human ships. Point defense systems shredded them instantly. "We're being hailed," the communications officer said, his voice shaking. It's in our language. Perfect Velkin." "Put it through," Captain Torvish ordered. The view screen flickered. A face appeared. A human face. Female, with dark eyes and short black hair streaked with gray. She wore a uniform of deep blue, and her expression was hard and determined. "Velkin flagship Eternal Hope, this is Commander Hyeri of the United Human Ship Indomitable," the human said. "Hold your position. We're clearing the area." Ji-won couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. She just stared. You're real," Captain Torvish finally said. Commander Hyeri's expression softened slightly. A small smile touched her lips. "We're real. And we're sorry we're late." The human ships moved through the Scourge formation like a storm. They were faster, more agile, more deadly than anything Ji-won had ever seen. The Scourge, which had seemed unstoppable moments ago, was being torn apart. "Multiple Scourge vessels destroyed," Kalen reported, his voice filled with wonder. "The humans they're winning." Ji-won looked at the symbol on the lead ship's hull. The symbol of Earth, a world that supposedly died 600 years ago. She thought of her message, sent into the darkness. Her plea to the ghosts of Terra, and the ghosts had answered dot around the bridge. The crew began to cheer. Some were crying. Others just stood in shock, watching the impossible become real. Ji-won touched her console with trembling fingers. She opened a channel to the human ship. "Commander Hyeri," she said, her voice breaking. "We thought you were gone. We thought humanity was extinct." The human woman's smile grew wider. Behind her, Ji-won could see other humans at their stations, working with calm efficiency as they destroyed the Scourge fleet. "We've been gone a long time," Hyeri said. "But we never forgot our friends. And we never stopped watching." "Hold on, Ambassador. We're going to save your world." For the first time in months, Ji-won felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The battle lasted 3 hours. To Ji-won, watching from the bridge of the Eternal Hope, it felt like both a lifetime and an instant. The human ships moved with a grace that defied physics, dancing between enemy fire while their weapons carved through the Scourge formation. "They're using gravitational weapons," Kalen said, his voice full of awe. "They're creating tiny black holes and directing them at enemy ships. And those projectiles? They're traveling at 20% light speed. The kinetic energy alone..." He trailed off, shaking his head. The tactical display showed the Scourge fleet breaking apart, trying to retreat. But the humans didn't let them. They hunted down every vessel. Methodical and relentless, Commander Hayari's face remained on the view screen throughout the battle. She issued orders in a calm voice, directing her fleet with precision. Jiwan noticed how young some of the humans looked. There was a pilot, barely more than a boy, weaving his fighter through impossible maneuvers. There was a woman with bright eyes monitoring the engineering systems. All of them worked together like parts of a single machine. "Last Scourge vessel destroyed," Hayari announced. "Daejin, take your reconnaissance team and sweep the debris field. Make sure nothing's playing dead. Minho, prep your Marines for boarding operations. The Vulcans are going to need help with rescue and repair." "Copy that, Commander," a male voice responded. "Minho here. Marines are ready. We'll be gentle with our new friends." Jiwan saw Captain Torvish stand a little straighter. The old warrior's eyes were wet, but his voice was strong. "Commander Hayari, on behalf of the Vulcan Empire, I thank you. You saved us. You saved our world. We are in your debt." Hayari shook her head. "No debt. Our ancestors made promises to yours 600 years ago. Humans don't forget promises, but Earth... Jiwan couldn't help but ask. "We saw the recordings. Your son went unstable. The system was destroyed." A shadow passed over Hayari's face. "Earth died, yes. Our homeworld is gone. But not all of humanity was on Earth when it happened. We had colonies, research stations, exploration vessels. When our scientists detected the solar instability, we had 30 years of warning. 30 years to evacuate everyone we could." She paused, looking at something off-screen. "We built generation ships. Hundreds of them. Millions of humans scattered into the dark, heading for unexplored space. Some ships failed. Some were lost. But others survived. We found hidden places, nebulae where we could hide our colonies. Rogue planets far from any star. We stayed quiet. We watched. We learned. And we prepared. Why didn't you contact us sooner?" Captain Torvish asked. "We mourned you. We thought you were extinct. Because we were divided," Hayari said simply. "Some humans wanted to stay hidden forever. They believed the galaxy was too dangerous, that revealing ourselves would only lead to our extinction. Others wanted to return, to reclaim our place among the stars." The debate lasted for generations. On the view screen, another human appeared beside Hayari. She was older, maybe 50, with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back tight. She wore different insignia than Hayari's military uniform. "I'm Youngji," the woman said. "I represent the Diplomatic Council. Commander Hayari convinced our people that hiding was a slow death, that we would lose our humanity if we forgot how to help others. When we detected your war with the Scourge, we knew we had to act, even if some of our people disagreed." Yuan felt her wings flutter with emotion. "You risked your secrecy to save us." "We risked our fear," Yinji corrected gently. "To honor our courage. That's what humans do." The Indomitable moved closer to the Eternal Hope. Jiwan could see it clearly now through the viewport. It was beautiful in a deadly way, all sharp angles and dark armor. Weapons turrets tracked constantly, alert for any threat. But there was something else about it too. Something that felt protective, like a guardian. "Permission to dock and send over rescue teams," Hayari said. "My Marines are trained in zero-gravity rescue operations. My engineers can help with your ship repairs. And we have medical supplies if you need them." Captain Torvish looked around his bridge. Many of his crew were injured. Fires still burned in several sections. They needed help desperately. "Permission granted," he said. "And Commander? Welcome back to known space." 20 minutes later, the first human shuttle docked with the Eternal Hope. Jiwan went to the docking bay to meet them, along with a security detail. Her hearts were pounding. She was about to meet humans in person. Real humans, not legends or stories. The airlock opened with a hiss. Marines came through first, wearing powered armor that made them look huge. But they moved carefully, slowly, obviously trying not to seem threatening. Their armor was painted dark gray with blue accents. Each one carried weapons that looked advanced beyond anything Jiwan had seen. The lead Marine stopped a few meters away and removed his helmet. He was young, maybe early 30s, with a strong face and short black hair. His eyes were brown and alert. "I'm Minho," he said in perfect Velkin. His accent was strange but understandable. "Squad leader for Rescue Team 1, we're here to help." Behind him, more Marines removed their helmets. Men and women, all human. Jiwan stared at their smooth skin, their strange ears, their varied faces. They looked so different from any species she knew, and yet something about them seemed familiar. Maybe it was their expressions, the determination, the kindness. "I'm Ambassador Jiwan," she managed to say. "We have wounded in Medical Bay 3, and Engineering Section 2 has a hull breach that we can't seal." "We'll handle it," Minho said. He gestured to his team, and they split into groups with practiced efficiency. Some headed for medical. Others went toward engineering. "My people are trained for this. We'll have you operational in a few hours." A smaller human stepped forward, a young woman with bright, intelligent eyes. She wasn't wearing armor, just a dark blue jumpsuit with tool belts. "I'm Solman," she said. "Chief Engineer. Mind if I take a look at your power systems? I might be able to boost your shield generators." "Our technology is very different from yours," Jawan said hesitantly. Solman grinned. "I know, that's what makes it fun. Don't worry, I won't break anything, probably." Despite everything, Jiwan found herself smiling. There was something infectious about the human's confidence. Over the next hours, Jiwan watched the humans work throughout the ship. They were everywhere, helping with repairs, treating the wounded, clearing debris. The Velkin crew was amazed by their efficiency. But more than that, they were touched by their gentleness. Minho's Marines could have been intimidating in their armor, but they went out of their way to be kind. They helped elderly Velkins to medical bay. They played simple games with scared younglings who had been trapped during the battle. One Marine, a young man named Sungwoo, who served as a medic, sang softly while treating wounds. The tune was alien but somehow comforting. Soman kept her promise about the shield generators. Working with the Velkin engineers, she modified the power distribution system. "It's a temporary fix," she explained, showing them her work. "But it should boost your shields by 30%. The real trick is redistributing the energy flow to compensate for the harmonic resonance in your—" She continued talking, and the Velkin engineers listened with growing respect. She wasn't keeping secrets. She was teaching them. In the main corridor, Jiwan met Daejin. He was the reconnaissance officer she'd heard on the communications, a slim human with sharp eyes and quick movements. He was inspecting the ship's hull repairs, scanning for any structural weaknesses. "You're thorough," Jiwan observed. Daejin looked up and smiled. "Can't be too careful?" "The scourge is tricky. Sometimes they leave behind dormant spores or tracking devices. We're making sure your ship is clean." "Why?" Jiwan asked. "Why do you care so much? You don't know us. We're strangers to you." Daejin's smile faded. He was quiet for a moment, thinking. "My grandmother told me stories about the Velkins," he finally said. "She was on one of the generation ships. She said that before Earth died, Velkin traders helped human colonies when we had nothing to offer in return. She said your people showed kindness when we needed it most." He looked directly at Jiwan. "We don't forget kindness. And we don't let our friends fight alone. Even if we've been apart for 600 years, you're still our friends." Jiwan felt tears well up in her eyes again. She reached out slowly, carefully, and touched Daejin's hand. His skin was warm, real, not a ghost. Not a legend. "Welcome home," she whispered on the bridge. Captain Torvish received a message from Threshold Prime. The Scourge forces on the ground were retreating. Confused and disorganized without their fleet support. Human ships were providing orbital support, helping Velkin ground forces drive the invaders away. Commander Hyeri appeared on the view screen again. "Captain, Ambassador, I've been authorized to begin formal discussions about a renewed alliance. We have much to talk about. The Scourge is still out there, and this battle was just one victory. But if we stand together—" "We'll stand together," Torvish said immediately. Humanity has returned, and the Velkan Empire welcomes you back. Jiwan looked around the bridge at her crew. They were battered, exhausted, but alive. And standing among them were humans, working side by side with Velkans like they had never been apart. The myths were real. The legends had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news spread through Velkan space like fire. Humanity had returned. The ghosts of Terra were real. Within days, every colony, every station, every ship knew the story of Threshold Prime. Some celebrated. Others were afraid. G1 stood in the Grand Council chamber on Velka Prime, the Empire's capital world. The chamber was ancient, carved from living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. 7 species were represented here, each with their own concerns about humanity's return. They could conquer us, said Counselor Vorath. A large crystalline being whose body refracted light in rainbow patterns. We are weak from the war. Our fleets are scattered. If humans wanted to take our worlds, we couldn't stop them. They saved us, Jawan argued, her wings spreading in agitation. They asked for nothing in return. Yet, Vorath countered, they asked for nothing yet. But what will they want later? What if they demand territory? Resources? What if they want to rule us? Yunji sat quietly in the observer's section, listening. The human diplomat had arrived 2 days ago with a small delegation. She had requested this meeting, asking permission to address the council formally. Now she waited patiently while the Velkans debated among themselves. Beside her sat Jungho, a Velkan military commander from the reptilian branch of the Empire. He was old, his scales scarred from many battles. He had been studying the humans since they arrived, watching their ships, analyzing their tactics. Unlike some counselors, he wasn't afraid. He was cautious. What do you think of us? Young-ho asked Yunji quietly. Speaking in her language, Yunji smiled. You're being careful. That's smart. I would do the same in your position. Will your people try to dominate us? No, Yunji said simply. We've learned that lesson. Before Earth died, humanity made many mistakes. We fought among ourselves. We tried to control others. Those mistakes almost destroyed us. The survivors rebuilt our culture around different values. We decided we would rather be helpers than rulers. Young-ho studied her face. Pretty words. But words are easy. Then judge us by our actions, Yunji replied. We've been back for 6 days. Have we made any demands? Have we threatened anyone? Have we done anything except help? Young-ho had no answer to that. It was true. The human ships had remained in orbit around Threshold Prime, assisting with reconstruction. They shared their medical supplies freely. They helped repair damaged stations. They taught willing Velkans how to improve their shield technology. And they asked for nothing. High Counselor Baraven, an elderly insectoid like Jiwan, finally called for order. We will hear from the human delegation, she announced. Ambassador Yunji, please speak. Yunji stood and walked to the center of the chamber. She bowed respectfully to each council member in turn, following proper Velkan protocol. Honored counselors, she began, I come before you with a proposal. 600 years ago, our people signed the Treaty of 7 Stars. It promised mutual defense, shared knowledge, and eternal friendship. That treaty was never broken. It was only interrupted by tragedy. She pulled out a data tablet, and a hologram appeared above it. The image showed an ancient document, faded but still readable. This is the original treaty, signed by Human Ambassador Richards and High Counselor Thevrin. We kept this copy aboard one of our generation ships. We never forgot. The council chamber was silent. Many counselors had never seen the actual document. It had been lost in the chaos of Earth's destruction. We propose renewing this alliance, Yunji continued. Not as conquerors or rulers, as partners. The scourge is still growing stronger. They consumed 12 Velkan worlds before we arrived. They will consume more if we don't stop them together. What do you know of the scourge? Young-ho asked, leaning forward. More than we'd like, Yunji admitted. She gestured, and the hologram changed. It showed a detailed analysis of scourge biology and tactics. We've been observing them for 20 years. We've captured specimens. We've studied their patterns. And we found something disturbing. The hologram zoomed in on a star chart. Red markers showed scourge attacks over the past century. They're not just spreading randomly. They're searching for something. The attacks follow a pattern, moving through space in a specific direction. Yuan felt her blood chill. Searching for what? We don't know, Yunji said. But we have a team working on it. Our intelligence officer, Nari, has been coordinating with your archivists. She believes the answer might be in your historical records. As if summoned, a younger human entered the chamber. She was slim, with quick eyes that noticed everything. She carried several data tablets and looked excited. Forgive the interruption, Nari said, bowing quickly. But I found something important. Speak, High Counselor Baravan said. Nari activated her tablets, and new holograms filled the chamber. I've been reading through Velkan archives that are 50,000 years old. Most of it is corrupted or incomplete. But there are references to something called the First Scourge, an earlier invasion that happened long before your recorded history began. She pulled up images of ancient cave paintings found on abandoned worlds. They showed twisted creatures consuming cities. The First Scourge devastated this entire region of space. Billions died. But then it suddenly stopped. The Scourge vanished for 50,000 years. Until now, Young-Ho said grimly. Exactly, Nari agreed. And according to these fragments, the First Scourge was searching for something too. A place called Sanctuary 7. The records are damaged, but it seems Sanctuary 7 held some kind of weapon. Something powerful enough to threaten the Scourge. Where is this place? Counselor Vorath asked. The location was deliberately erased from all records, Nari said. For safety. But there are clues. References to a nebula region, specific star patterns. I think I can find it. But I'll need access to your deepest archives, and I'll need experts who understand ancient Velkan languages. The council erupted into discussion. Some counselors were excited. Others were worried. Young-Ho stood and called for silence. If this weapon exists, he said, we must find it before the Scourge does. I propose a joint expedition. Human and Velkan crews working together. Can we trust them that much? Vorath asked. To share such knowledge? Young-Ho looked at Yunji and Nari. I've watched their people for 6 days. I've seen their Marines help our wounded. I've seen their engineers teach our young. I've seen them fight beside us and ask nothing in return. He paused. My daughter was on Threshold Prime. She would be dead if not for humans. Yes, I trust them. The vote was close, but eventually the council agreed. A joint task force would be formed. Human ships and Velkan ships, working together to find Sanctuary 7 before the Scourge could. After the meeting, Jiwan found Young-Ho standing alone on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The triple sunset was beginning, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. You were very supportive in there, Jiwan said. I thought you would be more skeptical. Young-Ho was quiet for a moment. I was skeptical, he finally said. But then something happened. 2 days ago, I was visiting wounded soldiers in the hospital. There was a young Marine there, human. His name was Sungwoo. He was treating a Velkan soldier who had lost both arms in the battle. He turned to look at Jiwan. The soldier was crying, saying he was useless now. He would never hold his child again. And this human medic, this Sungwoo, he sat with him for 2 hours. He talked about advances in prosthetics. He showed him exercises for recovery. He made that soldier believe he could have a future. Young-Ho's voice grew thick with emotion. Later, I learned that Sungwoo had been on duty for 36 hours straight. He was exhausted. But he stayed with that soldier because it mattered. Because he cared. They really have changed, Jiwan said softly. Or maybe they haven't, Young-Ho replied. Maybe this is who humans always were beneath everything else. That's what your grandmother's story said, isn't it? That humans could be fierce warriors and gentle healers at the same time. Jiwan nodded. She thought of Daijin and his kind eyes, of Minho and his careful Marines, of Solman and her eagerness to teach, of Hyeri and her determination to protect. The galaxy forgot what humanity could be, she said. Maybe they forgot too, for a while. But they remembered. In orbit above Velka Prime, human and Velkan ships began coordinating their movements. Engineers from both species worked on joint projects. Soldiers trained together. Scientists shared data freely. Soman had become particularly popular among Velkan engineers. She ran workshops on human technology, explaining concepts in simple terms. She never acted superior, never kept secrets. When asked why she shared so freely, she just smiled and said, "Knowledge grows when it's shared." Commander Hyeri met with Velkan fleet commanders, planning strategies for the upcoming expedition. She listened more than she talked, respecting their experience in this region of space. When she did offer suggestions, they were practical and well-thought-out. And Nari worked day and night with Velkan archivists, piecing together clues about Sanctuary 7. The location was gradually taking shape. A region of dark space, filled with dead stars and dangerous anomalies. A place called the Abyss Nebula. It won't be an easy journey, Nari warned at the planning meeting. The nebula disrupts communications and sensors. Ships can get lost in there. But if the weapon is anywhere, it's there. Then that's where we go, Hyeri said simply. Together, Jiwan added, the word hung in the air. The Abyss Nebula looked like a wound in space. Dark purple and black clouds swirled in the void, shot through with veins of sickly green radiation. Dead stars floated in the darkness, their light long extinguished. It was a place where ships went to die. Jin stood on the bridge of his scout ship, the Swift Arrow, and stared at the nebula through the viewport. He was a human captain, 37 years old, with tired eyes and hands that never quite stopped shaking. He had lost his wife and daughter to the Scourge 3 years ago. Now he volunteered for every dangerous mission, hoping each one might be his last, but also hoping he might hurt the Scourge badly enough to matter. "Readings are off the scale," his sensor officer reported. "Magnetic interference, gravitational anomalies, radiation spikes. Our scanners are almost useless in there." "Can we navigate through it?" Hajin asked. "Barely. We'll have to use manual piloting and visual confirmation. And we'll need to stay close to the other ships. If we get separated—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Everyone knew what happened to ships that got lost in places like this. Behind the Swift Arrow, 11 other vessels formed up in tight formation. Commander Hyeri's Indomitable led the group, its powerful sensors trying to pierce the nebula's interference. Young Ho commanded the Velkan flagship Steadfast Honor, its ancient engines rumbling with determination. Smaller ships surrounded them, both human and Velkan, ready to support each other. "All ships report ready," came Hyeri's voice over the communications. "Remember the protocol. Stay in visual range. Check in every 10 minutes. If you lose contact with the fleet, drop a beacon and wait for rescue. Don't try to navigate alone." "Understood," the captains responded, one by one. "Then let's go find this weapon," Hyeri said. "And hope we get there before the Scourge does." The fleet entered the nebula. Almost immediately, everything changed. The darkness closed around them like a fist. Sensors flickered and died. Communications became scratchy and unreliable. The nebula pressed against the ships, thick and oppressive. Tae-yun, a young human pilot flying escort in his fighter, felt his instruments go crazy. "This is insane," he muttered into his radio. "I can't even see my wingmate." "Stay calm," Minho's voice came back. The Marine was aboard the Indomitable, but he was monitoring the fighter squadrons. "Use your visual tracking. Trust your eyes, not your instruments." Tae-yun did as instructed, squinting through the darkness. He could just barely see another fighter nearby, its running lights dim in the murk. He adjusted his position, staying close. Aboard the Steadfast Honor, Jiwan worked with the navigation team. She had joined the expedition as an observer and liaison. Now she helped translate ancient Velkan star charts, comparing them to what little they could see. "There should be a cluster of dead stars to our port side," she said. 3 of them in a triangle formation. That's the first marker according to the archives. Young-ho peered through the viewport. The darkness was so thick it felt solid. But slowly, gradually, shapes emerged. 3 dark spheres, barely visible against the black. Dead stars, exactly where the ancient records said they would be. Good work, Ambassador, Young-ho said. Helm, adjust course. Follow the markers. The fleet moved deeper into the nebula. Hours passed. The tension grew with every kilometer. The darkness played tricks on their eyes. Sensors sometimes showed contacts that weren't there. Other times they missed asteroids that appeared suddenly from the murk. Soman worked frantically in the Indomitable's engineering section, trying to boost their scanners. She had jury-rigged a system that combined human and Velkan technology, hoping the different sensor types might compensate for each other's weaknesses. It's working a little, she reported to Hyeri. I'm getting maybe 20% better range, but it's still not enough. Every little bit helps, Hyeri replied. Keep at it. On the 3rd day in the nebula, they found the first sign they weren't alone. Hadjin's swift arrow, scouting ahead, detected debris. He moved closer carefully and his heart sank. Commander, he reported. I've found wreckage. It's old, maybe several months, but it's Scourge origin. They've been here, Nari said over the communications. She was aboard the Indomitable, analyzing every piece of data. They're searching for Sanctuary 7 too. How far ahead of us are they? Young-ho asked. Unknown, Nari replied. This debris could be from a scout group that came and left. Or it could mean they have a larger force somewhere nearby. Increase alert status, Hyeri ordered. All ships, weapons hot. Stay sharp. The fleet pressed on, more cautious now. Fighter squadrons flew wider patrols. Marines stood ready in armor, prepared for boarding actions. Every shadow could be an enemy. They found more debris over the next 2 days. Pieces of Scourge ships, drifting through the darkness. Some looked like they had been destroyed in battle. Others seemed to have simply failed, unable to survive the nebula's harsh environment. At least the nebula hurts them too, Minho commented. That's something. On day 6, they encountered the first active Scourge. Taeyun was on patrol when his fighter's limited sensors picked up movement. Something big, moving through the darkness ahead. He reported immediately, his voice tight with tension. Contact bearing 270. Moving slow. Can't get a clear read. All fighters form up on Taeyun's position, came the order. Capital ships, battle formation. The fleet shifted, weapons tracking the unknown contact. As they drew closer, it became visible. A Scourge ship, one of their medium cruisers, drifted through the nebula. Its organic hull pulsed with faint green light. But something was wrong. It wasn't moving with purpose. It seemed lost, confused. It doesn't know we're here, Dejin observed from his reconnaissance station. The nebula is blinding it too. Take it out quietly, Hyeri ordered, before it can warn others. Human and Velkan fighters swept in together, weapons primed. Taeyun led the attack, his missiles tracking true despite the interference. The Scourge ship never knew what hit it. It exploded in a flash of green fire, debris scattering into the darkness. Good kill, Minho said. But now we know they're here. Stay alert. Over the next hours, they encountered 3 more Scourge ships. All seemed to be struggling with the nebula, their superior sensors useless in the interference. The joint fleet destroyed each one before it could send a warning. But everyone knew this couldn't last. Eventually, they would encounter a force too large to quietly eliminate. Sungwoo, working in the medical bay, noticed casualties were starting to mount. Nothing from combat, but the nebula itself was making people sick. The radiation, the stress, the constant darkness. He moved between human and Velkan patients, treating everyone with the same care. How much longer? A young Velkan soldier asked him. She looked frightened, barely old enough to serve. Not long, Sungwoo assured her, though he had no idea if that was true. We're going to find what we came for, and then we go home. You'll see your family again. She smiled weakly, wanting to believe him. On day 9, Nari made a breakthrough. Working with ancient star charts and the few reliable sensor readings they had, she triangulated a location. "I think I've found it," she announced. Sanctuary 7 should be approximately 30 million kilometers ahead, bearing 315. There's a massive gravity well there, probably a rogue planet. "A planet with no star?" Young-ho asked. "It happens," Soman explained. "Planets sometimes get ejected from their solar systems. They drift through space, frozen and dark. Perfect place to hide something you don't want found." "Take us in," Hayeri ordered. Slow and careful. The fleet adjusted course, moving toward the coordinates. The tension was unbearable now. They were so close. But the Scourge had to be close too. Hajin's swift arrow took point, its small size making it the best choice for scouting ahead. He pushed his ship forward through the darkness, eyes straining to see anything in the murk, and then he saw it. A massive shape, darker than the surrounding darkness. A rogue planet, just as Nari predicted. And attached to its surface, barely visible, was a structure. Ancient and enormous, built by hands long dead. "Contact," Hajin whispered. "I found Sanctuary 7. But his moment of triumph was cut short. His sensors, damaged and unreliable, suddenly screamed a warning. More contacts, hundreds of them, appearing from behind the planet. The Scourge fleet had been waiting. "They knew we were coming," Hajin shouted into his radio. "It's a trap." Massive Scourge presence, at least 50 ships. "All ships, battle stations." Hayeri's voice rang out. "Fighters, screen the capital ships. We're going in." The darkness exploded with fire as the two fleets collided. Scourge ships poured around the rogue planet, their weapons blazing. Human and Velkan vessels returned fire, filling the nebula with light and fury. Taeyeon's fighter squadron engaged immediately, diving into the Scourge formation. "Stay together," he shouted to his wingmates. "Watch your spacing." Minho's Marines stood ready in the launch bays, prepared to board any enemy ship that got close enough. "This is what we trained for," he told his squad. "Show them what happens when they threaten our friends." On the bridge of the Indomitable, Hayeri watched the tactical display. The battle was chaos. The nebula made coordination nearly impossible. Ships fought in small groups, often unable to see the larger picture. "We have to reach the planet," she said. "The weapon is our only chance." "I'll clear the way," Hajin said over the radio. Hajin's ship hit the surface of the rogue planet at full speed. The impact should have killed him, but he had angled the crash perfectly, using the ship's emergency systems to absorb most of the force. Still, when he climbed out of the wreckage, he could barely stand. His leg was broken and blood ran down his face. Behind him, in orbit, the battle raged. He could see flashes of light through the darkness as ships fought and died. He had minutes, maybe less. Before Scourge ground forces found him, the ancient facility loomed ahead, built into the planet's frozen surface. Its walls were covered in symbols he didn't understand. But the entrance was open, waiting. "I'm inside the facility," he reported through his damaged radio. "Can anyone hear me?" Static answered him. The nebula was blocking communications. He was alone. Hajin limped forward into the darkness. His suit's lights illuminated corridors that hadn't been walked in 50,000 years. The facility was massive, a maze of passages and chambers. He had no map, no guide. But he kept moving forward, following his instincts. In orbit, the battle was going badly. The Scourge had too many ships. They swarmed the human and Velkan vessels, attacking from all sides. Taeyeon's fighter squadron was down to half strength, their ammunition running low. "We can't hold them much longer," Taeyeon shouted, dodging plasma fire. His fighter took a hit, and warning lights flashed across his cockpit. "Just hold on," Minho responded. "The landing teams are forming up. We're going down to support Hajin." Minho stood in the shuttle bay, surrounded by his Marines. Beside him stood Velkan soldiers, including Jiwan. She had demanded to join the ground assault, and Young-ho had finally agreed. "This is insane," she had said. "But that human is down there alone, trying to save all of us. The least I can do is stand beside him." The shuttle launched, carrying 20 Marines and 10 Vulcan soldiers. It dodged through the battle, taking hits but staying intact. Soman had reinforced its shields, giving it just enough protection to reach the surface. They landed near Hajin's crashed ship and immediately came under fire. Scourge ground forces were already there, trying to enter the facility. Minho's team engaged them, weapons blazing. Sungwoo set up a medical station. Minho ordered. Everyone else, push forward. We have to reach Hajin. The Marines and Vulcan soldiers fought side by side, each covering the other. Jiwan discovered she was better at combat than she thought. She carried a human rifle that Minho had given her, and she used it to devastating effect. Not bad for an ambassador, Minho said, grinning despite the chaos. I'm full of surprises, Jiwan replied. Shooting another Scourge soldier, they fought their way to the facility entrance, leaving Bottas behind them. Inside, they split into teams, searching for Hajin and the weapon. The corridors echoed with gunfire as they cleared room after room. Deep in the facility, Hajin found what he was looking for. A massive chamber, dominated by a device that hummed with power even after 50,000 years. The weapon. Control panels covered in alien writing surrounded it. I found it, he whispered, hoping his radio would somehow carry the message. But I don't know how to activate it. Behind him, footsteps echoed. Scourge soldiers coming closer. He raised his weapon, preparing for a last stand, then other footsteps, running faster. Minho's voice shouting orders, gunfire, the Scourge soldiers fell. And suddenly Jiwan was there, supporting Hajin as his injured leg gave out. We've got you, she said. You did it. You found the weapon. But I can't activate it, Hajin said, frustrated. I don't understand the controls. Let me see, came a new voice. It was Yaman, a Vulcan scientist from the crystalline species. He had insisted on joining the landing party despite having no combat training. Now he studied the control panels, his body refracting the chamber's light. These symbols, he said slowly. I've seen them before. In the oldest archives. This is ancient Vulcan from before the Empire. I can read it. He worked quickly, his fingers dancing across the controls. Behind them, more Scourge forces approached. Daejin and his reconnaissance team held the corridor, fighting desperately to buy time. How long? Minho shouted. I don't know, Yemin replied. This weapon, it's designed to destroy all biological matter in a massive radius. It's meant to kill everything, to starve the Scourge. What? Jiwan stared at him in horror. You mean it will kill us too? Yes, Yamin said. That's why it was sealed away. Our ancestors built a weapon that was too terrible to use. In orbit, the battle reached its critical point. The Indomitable was burning, its shields failing. Young Ho's steadfast honor moved to protect it, taking heavy fire. Ships on both sides exploded, filling space with debris. Commander, Soman said from engineering, we're losing power. I can keep us alive, but not for long. Hyeri looked at the tactical display. They were surrounded, outnumbered, outgunned, but she refused to give up. All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship, she ordered. If we can break their command structure, maybe we can turn this around. Human and Vulcan ships focused their weapons on the largest Scourge vessel. It was massive, covered in organic armor and bristling with weapons. But under concentrated fire, even it began to falter. In the facility, Nari had joined the group in the weapon chamber. She studied the controls alongside Yaman, her mind racing. Wait, she said suddenly. What if we don't use the weapon as intended? What if we reverse its polarity? Reverse it how? Soman asked, also present via a holographic communication link. The weapon destroys biological matter by targeting its quantum signature, Nari explained quickly. But what if we make it broadcast a disruption frequency instead? The Scourge is a hive mind. They're all connected through quantum entanglement. If we disrupt that connection, we could sever the hive mind without killing everything, Soman finished. It's brilliant. But can we do it in time? Help me, Nari said to Yaman. You understand the ancient systems? I understand the theory. Together, maybe we can modify it. They worked frantically, rewiring the ancient weapon while Scourge forces pressed closer. Minho's Marines fell back slowly, their ammunition running low. Sungwoo dragged wounded soldiers to safety, both human and Velkin, working until his hands were covered in blood. "We're almost out of time," Daejin shouted. "They're breaking through. Just a few more seconds." Nari pleaded. Ji-won stood beside Hajin, who was barely conscious from his injuries. She held his hand, feeling how cold his skin had become. "Stay with me," she whispered. "We're going to make it. Your sacrifice won't be wasted." "Tell them," Hajin breathed. "Tell them humanity keeps its promises." The Scourge broke through the final defense line. They flooded into the chamber, their twisted forms illuminated by the weapon's glow. Minho and his remaining Marines formed a circle around the scientists, firing their last rounds. "Now!" Nari screamed. "Activate it now." Yamin pressed the final control, and the weapon came alive. But not with the destructive force it was designed for. Instead, a pulse of energy radiated outward, invisible but powerful, washing across the planet, through space, touching every Scourge creature in the system. In orbit, Hyeri watched in amazement as Scourge ships suddenly stopped moving. They drifted, powerless, their coordination completely lost. "What happened?" Young-ho asked over the radio. "The hive mind," Hyeri breathed. "It's been severed. They're not connected anymore." Without the hive mind controlling them, the Scourge creatures became confused and aggressive. They attacked each other, unable to coordinate. Some shut down completely. Their simple individual brains unable to function without the collective intelligence. The battle turned in an instant. Human and Velkin ships, though damaged and exhausted, began destroying the disorganized Scourge vessels. Taeyun's squadron regrouped, hunting down enemy fighters that could no longer work together. In the facility, the Scourge soldiers collapsed or fought each other. The landing party stared in disbelief. "It worked," Minho said. "By all the stars, it actually worked." Sungwoo immediately went to work, treating the wounded. He reached Hajin first, checking his vital signs. "He's alive," Sungwoo said. "Barely, but I can stabilize him." "He'll make it." Yuan felt tears running down her face. She looked around at the chamber, at the humans and Velkins who had fought together, bled together, survived together. "We did it," she whispered. "We stood together and we won." The cleanup took days. The combined fleet destroyed or captured every Scourge vessel in the system. Ground forces cleared the planet, rescuing survivors and securing the ancient facility. Soman and her team studied the weapon, learning its secrets so they could replicate the hive mind. Disruption without needing the ancient device. Casualties were heavy. Hajin survived, but hundreds of others didn't. Human and Velkin names filled the memorial lists. They held ceremonies on the rogue planet, honoring the fallen from both species together. Months later, Jiwon stood in the same council chamber on Velka Prime where she had first argued for the alliance. But everything was different now. The chamber was filled with both Velkins and humans, working together on plans to rebuild and defend against future threats. Hyeri stood beside her, no longer just a military commander but also a friend. They had been through too much together to be anything else. "The Scourge will come back," Hyeri said quietly. "We hurt them, but they're still out there. But now we know how to fight them," Jiwon replied. "And more importantly, we're not fighting alone,"